Been here helping students study and review for the practice midterm in Intro to Computer Science Python. Always read the directions. I'm not going to take time to read these directions right here, but you can do that on your own time. Task. We must first understand the problem that we're solving with a program. In other words, the first step of the programming process. Create a Python program that draws 3 horizontally connected squares, each with a width of 50, where the lower left corner of the leftmost one is at 0, 0. Boy, that's a mouthful. If you have any questions on that, after thinking about it for like a minute or two, buy help by calling me over to your desk, and I will probably help you understand what horizontal means, or what I mean by connected, or what I mean by a square, or what lower left corner at 0, 0 would be. Now you'll be charged a point or two, -1 for this, -1 for that, towards your overall exam score, but it would be worth it so that you're not stuck with not being able to do the rest of the task. So right now, I'm going to assume that you know that a square is the same length as it is wide, and that connected would mean that that square is connected to this one if it's like that, and that the number 3 would mean that we would have 3 of those squares. And the squares have line segments around their outside, and those line segments have coordinates that we've learned about earlier in this semester course. And this leftmost lower left corner coordinate would be the point 0, 0. So that's your like rough sketch that you probably would put on this actual paper. You're not allowed to get help from your neighbor or even look at their screen or their scratch paper. But you would draw that just to get an idea that you don't need to ask me for any more clarification. Now we move on to these steps for the next 30 or so minutes of the exam hands-on portion. Okay, we've now understood the task. Plan the design by sketching it on X and Y axes on a piece of grid paper. I will be handing out paper during the exam, like good old-fashioned pieces of paper. Bring your pencil and bring a straight edge, a ruler. I don't have enough to give to everybody in the room, but you'll want to draw your lines as accurately as you can, as straight as you can. So you would perhaps draw a straight line that's 50 pixels wide by 50 pixels high. And I'm doing that with the help of this software. And I will not take off points for people having slightly rough lines. I just want to see a sketch under time pressure. So this is the point 0, 0. So it's your job to label all of these corner points according to the specs. So that's the point 0, 0. You would label that with your pencil, and then you would also label the other corner points. So I'm having trouble copying and pasting, so I'm just going to label these other ones. That would be the point 0, 50. If you don't have all of these endpoints labeled, you'll lose points on the exam, partial credit. I need 2 more squares accurately drawn to have widths of 50. All these endpoints here need to be labeled with XY coordinates. I may not have time in this short video to do all that, but by saying it, I'm telling you to do this on the day of the exam. Label all of those dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 in all would need to be labeled in this case. This point right here, Ben, what would this point be labeled right here? Just to randomly pick one.
Top right.
Top right, correct?
That would be 150.
Good. He has the correct x coordinate first. 150 is the x number, which always goes first according to geometry and Cartesian coordinates. And the second parameter, or number rather, the coordinate, would be the 50 that matches up with the 50 on the y-axis. Moving back to the task at hand, we finished that paragraph there. So, and we've also, or we're pretending that we labeled all the endpoints. Now we neatly type or print the code that produces all of that. On the day of the exam, I do not give you this code, these code starters, import turtle, pen equals turtle.turtle. That's one little thing that you would memorize for this midterm exam. A year from now, you might not memorize these kinds of Python commands. You could look them up. But I do ask that you memorize import turtle. We've been using it a lot. And over in Replit, when you start a new project that is Python with turtle at repl.it, I have the little turtle icon there. You should know how to start a new project. We've done a lot of them this year. You do not have to type your name in a comment. You do not have to do works cited and all that. This is not a full-fledged programming assignment, but rather you just have to start with the juicy stuff. Import turtle. And then pen equals turtle.turtle would be necessary next. You'll need a capital T on that second turtle. You'll need empty parentheses, and you can technically name it anything you want. You can name it Sol, whether your name is Sol or not. You could name it Minnick is a horrible teacher, which I would not really like that, but I would maybe have to be faced with those facts during a teacher impeachment hearing. So I will just leave it at pen to keep it simple. You don't have to put hashtag comments in here, but if you want to call that variables, that's fine. I like that touch, but under time pressure, you might not have time for that. Now you would like test your program as you go. If you have an error message, like you forgot to spell the word turtle correctly, you could look at the console screen and call me over if you can't figure out how to debug that mistake. Don't spend too much time staring at red error messages. Buy some help. I will only charge you a point for coming over your desk and fixing whatever needs to be fixed. You're not allowed to get help from other students or even to look at their screen, and you're not allowed to look things up in Google or your other Replit projects in your account or my demo programs. You're not allowed to do that on this exam. So now you might look at your interface sketch and decide either to draw this horizontal line first from that 0.00, which is where the turtle always starts, or you would draw the vertical line. Well, I'm going to draw the horizontal line because the turtle faces to the right by default. We studied that, and if you do pen.forward, some length such as 150, it will draw that line to the right. Now, it did not say what color you had to use over here in my specs, as we call this. But if you want to give it some flair, don't add extra stuff just because, well, you like the color blue. You don't have time to add extra flair unless you're done with everything. Then you're adding it after the fact. Matthew, any questions? Good. He doesn't have any questions, just for the record, internet audience. He's looking up, paying attention to every little nuance in this video, the making of this video. Now, I might on game day, meaning on the day of the exam, I might ask you to use color. So keep in mind that pen.color blue is could be asked of you. I need to make a left turn. Pen.left 90 degrees. That would turn my turtle to the left so that I can come up this side right here next. This might take you 30 or 40 minutes. You'd have to figure out how far to go. Maybe you type in 500 by accident, and you send your turtle off this grid. Oh, that'd be like kicking the ball out of the end zone in American football. You know, you don't want to do that probably because the ball would be out of the dome, put a hole in the dome. So you might not want to do 500 there. Maybe you only want to do 50. Now, maybe for development purposes during this exam period, you up the speed of your turtle, pen.speed 0, so that it instantly draws this. And you don't have to wait for the slow motion. I'm not telling you that you have to change the speed in my specs, but if you want to do that to save time, you can. Now I need to make a right turn and a 90-degree right turn. Then I need to go another 150. And I should have the top half of, I should now have this part, and this part. Let's check it out. I make a right, whoa, I went the wrong direction there. I turned the wrong way. Oh my, new driver alert, new driver alert. The driverless car should have made a left turn. So that should have been left. You're gonna have mistakes like this. Once upon a time, there was a student named Brandon who spent 30 minutes playing some game that they used to call Crunker until it was banned from our school district. So by using left instead of right, Brandon knew to go this way. Now there are people that don't use forward and left. There are people that do go-tos. So instead of all this forward and left stuff, you might just do pen.goto, whatever your coordinates are. The coordinate right here, if I would have drawn it in there, would have been 150, 0 right there where I'm waving my mouse. So you could have done pen.goto 150, 0 to get that bottom line. And then you could have done simply pen.goto the point 150, 50 to get up to the top right corner. These two lines of code are equivalent to all of this commented out, hashtagged out code. I don't give you extra credit for having more code during the exam. I just give you credit for finishing it during the time allotted. You can have comments, you can have mess ups, just get it done. You do not have to use it at this time, according to the practice test that I'm doing, you do not have to have a function like draw squares. You don't have to have a function, but if you wanted to, you could. You could put this code, you could put it indented, Python style, inside there. But then when you click run, you might wonder why nothing happens. Well, that's because you have a function like draw squares that was not called. So now I call it with that correct call statement. And now this is another way to sort of start working on this project. If I ask you to fill something in, you would use begin fill, end fill. You might need to use pen up and pen down. Do a thorough review for anything that you think is fair game. But when you're finished with this drawing, you call me over and I look at it over here in the right window and I either give you full points or partial credit or no points. Now, depending on how much help you bought from me during the exam, I might have charged you a point because maybe you didn't indent properly somewhere. Okay, I'm about ready to sign off on this video. Hope we're not finished here, but this is a taste for what you're going to have to memorize or study going into the day of the exam. Because at this point, you should document your code eventually by adding white space if you have time. If not, just finish it by the end of the period and call the teacher over for a grade. Good luck.